Cool, we live. What's up? All right. Whew. Well, all right. Let's see what else Hacker News has got going for it. All right. Looks like a bunch of people dropped ETH from their Twitter username. Not that interesting actually. iFix and Google are launching a genuine pixel part program. Okay. Mm. Yeah, I guess slow day for the news. Shit. Stripe 2021 business update. All right, I'm curious. Now this is kind of curious. Let me zoom in on the you guys. Right, Stripe update. Headline switch from pandemic to political strategy. Internet comparison. Blah blah blah. Processed more than 640 billion in payments. 60% year-over-year growth. Okay. Online spending was only 12% of global spend in 2021. Okay. Interesting. Creator economy and embedded finance. All right. Uh. Stripe tax. Okay, this is cool. This is cool. Small amount of code. Stripe invoicing. Revenue recognition at scale. Okay, this is actually pretty good. This is actually pretty good. Usually for revenue recognition, when you bill someone, you gotta need to collect the cash on it. So it's actually pretty good. At this point, they're basically a competitor to Intuit. I think this is actually kind of interesting. But I'm wondering, where do they want to go with this? I get they want to, like, quote unquote, be the middleman of the internet and grow the GDP of the internet or whatever fuck mission statement they put out, but Stripe Terminal. What the heck is Stripe Terminal? Is it like a real banking Stripe Terminal? Wait, what the heck is this? Stripe Connect Lightspeed Modified Wix. Oh, it's just it's an in a person payment processing version of Stripe. Actually, that makes more sense. Stripe Connect multi-pay product. Customers, companies that operate globally and companies that aspire to. Okay. So really, are they talking about trying to process payments between countries? Holy shit, that's actually pretty hard, actually. Yeah, this is actually pretty goddamn hard if you think about the scope of what they're trying to do here. Reliance or secure and reliable payments. Yeah, that's true. Reliability. How do they plan to? Oh wow. 3 nines up. Wow. 3 nines uptime. That's really freaking good. This is like I am very fascinated now by what Stripe does for their infrastructure. A bigger city generates notable gains in economic productivity, creativity, and innovation. Um, yeah, yeah, I guess. Let me think about. Yeah, I mean, everyone's more close. Everyone's closer to the like the malls and shit. Yeah, yeah, that pretty much makes sense. Creator economy, yes. Okay, that's definitely a big one. Followed the most followed and highest earning creator of TikTok. Okay, measuring the growth. Okay, so they index the creator economy. What the hell do they mean by index? Are they tracking the value of it? Okay, so these are the number of total creators, but only like the top 1% really get paid anything worth noting. So I'm kind of interested. This one is oh boy. We also analyzed the sectors of the creator economy. Platforms like Interval, which started last year to let instructors stream fitness classes online, are part of the biggest category by revenue. Education. Oh god, I hate this. I really fucking hate this actually. uh, yeah, it's not a surprise. Everyone's selling courses. I actually kind of hate this. I'm not gonna lie. Creators starting living wages increased 41% year over year. Like, I hope that this will continue to increase in all ways. Online payments, da 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 da. Stripe now powers card payments for NFT. Oh god, selling crypto art. Okay, all right. I'm gonna make a bold prediction here. The problem I see is that the biggest category by revenue is education. That's also the biggest problem. Hey Justin, what's up? But yeah, yeah. The reason why I think this is going to be the biggest problem is because, well, you're effectively just selling information. I think most people don't really sell how to execute on that information. And so once enough people have bought the information, no one else can really buy it or get into it. So here, let me give you an example. Let's say I have a course on real estate, right? On how to buy and sell real estate and invest in real estate, right? Um, well, then I have that course, but then that kind of blocks out a lot of other people, right? Because courses on real estate tend to be fairly homogenous. I mean, the application of it tends to be regional, right? But as far as the basic information, it's basically going to be um, it's going to be the same no matter where you get it from. For the most part, when between creators. Now, of course, other creators can say, "Oh, my course is better," but you wouldn't know that until after the fact. In which case, it's all about branding. Now, do I care? So now that means that once I bought the what's it called the course from creator A, does that mean I go out and buy the course from creator B? Very unlikely, unless creator B has like some giga marketing big brain out there. But then after that, there's only so many people that you can sell this course to. Even if they buy from A and B, they're not gonna buy from C because then now it's like, oh, you have to beat the marketing of A and B, right? I'm not gonna use specific names so I don't get like fucking kicked off of YouTube or whatever. Fuck. But you get my point. Is that there's only so much information that you can sell of the same type to only of so many people. Um, so and all this information tends to be fairly homogenous. So actually, you know what? Let me give you a solid example. Hold up. So I'm gonna tell you this. Like every single, there's nothing new under the sun for real estate. I'm not gonna tell you. I'm gonna tell you that. In fact, like I have this book right here. What every real estate investor needs to know about cash flow. This is pretty much all you need. Like I've seen a lot of real estate courses. They're all pretty much the same. They tell you, oh yeah, you need to do the discounted cash flow for what you get out of the property. What's your cap rate, so you know how much, what's it called, how much you're willing to pay in order to get some level of return. What's your net operating income? How to calculate that? Understand that depreciation and amortization is taxed on sale, and it's just accounting and tax treatment, that sort of thing, right? And so, like, I know this. I already know this. Everyone knows this. Even the book knows this. So the question is, what additional value do you get out of a real estate course? It's like if someone has this magical way of finding houses and for cheap, are they really going to share it with the world? Because then everyone's going to go into that opportunity, exploit it, arbitrage it, and then it no longer exists. It would be counterintuitive. So, in other words, it's like whatever information people are selling you, it has to be very early in the game, and it has to be someone who's very effective. Otherwise, later on, as this space grows and more people come up with the courses, the less the less quality there has to be, or the less um, actual information there has to be. And there's only so many things people can teach, right? I can only teach you like two things really, just the probably coding interviews and engineering, and then maybe some investment. And even then, I wouldn't be like I couldn't do it because I don't have like the fucking investment license or whatever. I feel okay talking about it, but I wouldn't feel like okay coaching or anything like that. I can sell information about that, sure, why not? But that's kind of the problem, isn't it? It's like there's only so many things that people can really sell with regards to this space, and after that, it's just whatever. It's fucking worthless. It's valueless shit that people are branding. I don't see this portion of the economy actually growing at all. It's actually very sad if the biggest revenue is by education. I think, even though people might say, "Oh yeah, people are learning shit," right? I think it's sad because it's that people don't really stick to it. The TED is the fact that they sell information. It's not the fact they don't actually teach you how to act on it, and I think that's the sad part, really. Anyway, let me bring on my guest, and we'll chat.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Good. Fine.
Cool, man. Yeah, did you enjoy your break?
Yeah, for sure.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good to hear. That's what we want. So, like before, so for today's session, I thought it'd be kind of interesting to do like a mock interview, actually, like talking about your self experiences, because I know we've talked a lot about, the resume and stuff, but I think I would want to actually like try and critique like the way you present yourself. Also, and then after today's session, I want you to get back to doing lead code and stuff. Sound good?
Sounds good.
All right.
One thing, it's like you're planning to do a mock interview based on behavioral questions, right?
Yeah, correct. I know we haven't done that a lot, but I think it's also at least try to do it once.
Okay. Okay.
Unless you think you want to do like an actual another coding problem.
No, actually, there's yeah. I think it's better the behavioral.
Okay, cool.
Just for now.
Cool. I'm gonna teach. Okay, so let me just run a quick through of your story. Okay. I see you sent me some stuff, so let me go ahead and do that. Let me take a brief look before we start.
Okay.
Okay, that's pretty much everything we talked about. Developed by students, everything was hard coded. Objective was given to me, create a system that had a lot of different machines, the creation of different tutorials, therefore transfer the architecture that was hard coded to inform client architecture, decoupling the assets, blah blah blah. Okay, I see what you did here. It's gonna be a little bit hard, but okay, yeah, I know what to do. I know what to do. Basically, I think you are trying to memorize too many things, but let's see how well you've done it. So okay, so yeah, let's connect. So let's say that we're in an interview right now, right? So you walk in. All right, tell me about yourself, and yeah.
Okay. Well, my name is Mateus. I work basically with e-commerce companies and in academia, right?
Okay.
And I am able to work in a data-driven environment,
Okay.
also with e-commerce, to create solutions that will help the business, like in a meaningful way.
Okay.
So basically, that's a brief about me.
Okay, so you're able to help things in a meaningful way. Can you give me a brief overview of like what you do for uh, the engineering side of that endeavor?
Oh, for sure. Well, actually, I am capable to like uh, gather information for some context, right? To like understand data from some specific need and to scope a solution that will help people to like achieve some results with software. And all this part of engineering, I'm able to do this as well.
Okay.
Like, and I have few examples that proves that.
Okay. Yeah, tell me what you did at your last job or two.
Okay, well, actually, my current job, uh, I participated from the creation of a API for loan systems, right? And I participated from meetings with the client to understand their needs, and like meetings with the engineering portion of my team. And I act like I suggest different solutions to tackle problems, and I also was able to hear suggestions, and so we can create the best solutions for the client. Uh, and yeah, actually, that was one example. And like we are creating a system for loan, right? And that was basically this.
Okay.
It was kind of vague, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, I guess we'll move on to the questions. Can you tell me about a time where you had conflict with your teammates, or when you disagreed with your teammates, and how you resolved it?
Okay, for sure. Well, there was one time when I was like creating a solution, right? And I was exactly for one specific case that was to create a specific error. And
Make it
like
specific
my
what?
teammate, he was not agreeing. Like if we will have like a new logic, right, to verify this error. But I was trying to explain to him like, and he was not understanding. And he
Mm-hmm.
was like totally sure that his idea was the best, and I'm totally sure that my idea was the best. So what I decided to do in order to like mitigate this disagreement was to test both ideas. Like I suggest if he had some time, and we tested, and I showed that my solution like kind of work for the context, and he was able to visualize. I guess that maybe was part of me not able to explain pretty clear, but in the end, that's a part that I'm working on, like to be more clear with my words.
Okay. So what was this code used for?
Oh yeah, this actually is from my current job for the was a middleware to to verify different banking providers. So we hit in a API of one banking provider. If it was not working, we then try in the other. And yeah, basically he we had like a library for errors that we created, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that was basically I was trying to reuse something that would work for our context, but he was not seeing this, and I just implemented and showed him.
Mm. Okay.
That
So
was
you
basically this.
decided to reuse some code, and then he decided that you guys should have thought of or come up with new code.
Yeah, that was the idea.
Okay. Um. Well, this seems kind of it's like it's interesting because there's a lot of times we do have this issue of deciding to reuse code and new code. So my question is now, what was the argument you made before testing this that you should reuse it versus him? What was he saying that this? Why is it, was he suggesting to use new code?
He was suggesting to use new code because like uh, uh, he thought that we need more parameters for one specific function, right? And a different logic to verify some some error. But like while I was analyzed beforehand our library of errors, of exceptions and errors, I saw that we could like create a message in just one field, right? And the main argument that I was, I like, kind of putting into this discussion was we didn't have to implement a whole new logic for a new exception. So I told him like maybe it's faster if we can do this way, and I can show you if it doesn't work, we can go in your solution with your solution. So basically, we went for the fastest, and eventually worked in the end.
Okay, so you did a proof of concept of your idea, and then you just kind of showed that it would work.
Yeah,
Did you,
that
did
was
you,
basically this.
so your reasoning was that the function already did what you wanted. It's just
Yeah.
needed to, like, you only needed to fix some minor stuff.
Yes. Yes. It was basically like concatenate the message, right? Was to create an extra function before it passed to this exception handler, and we would be able to have like this specific exception for the specific error.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's okay. I see. So I guess going forward, there are going to be plenty of times when it's appropriate to, you know, reuse code. Other times it's okay to use new code. And you brought one example of, oh yeah, it's just simply easier for
Mhm.
us. Can you think of all
Yeah.
what are all other times when you would want to reuse code versus write new code?
Uh, like in a group context or like
Engineering
just
context. If you
okay, engineering
if you
context.
I gave you a project and you came up with this very similar ordeal where someone says to use new code and you said reuse code. Aside from it being easier, is there another reason why you might want to reuse the code?
For sake of time to implement, so we
Okay.
can save time.
Is there
Right.
any other reason?
Um. Actually, there is a reason for use like you past code. You know
Okay.
that is like to save time and like engineering time and complexity on our code base.
Okay.
But like if we had a specific need, maybe and maybe it's better we create a implement a
Mm,
new code for some
okay.
solution. But it's just sake of analyze the trade-offs for any specific any specific situation. I can give you one example when
Yeah.
this happened.
Mhm.
Actually, during one of my internships, uh, I had to create a framework uh, to tutorials to basically create tutorials on demand. But like they already have a machine hard coded.
Mhm.
What I did, I kind of like analyzed the code from this past framework
Mhm.
and reuse like the basic modules.
Okay.
Uh, Basically, I didn't have to reinvent a lot of the logic and just organize better because it was totally deorganized.
Mhm.
So which saved me a lot of time because there was a lot of physics formulas to like uh, to some objects to behave that
Mhm.
I just copy and paste it. And after do this, I tested to see the behavior was actually the real one that we needed. And few of them I had to make some minor changes, but I used most of them. Yeah, and just implement it in a new architecture.
Okay. Is
So
this?
yeah,
Wait. Is which experience is this? Is it? You said you're talking about physics formulas. Is this? Which experience is this?
this this was from Carnegie Mellon one.
Okay, but then what's the car? Pretend like I don't know anything about.
Okay,
Pretend
gotcha.
I'm new and I have no idea what you're talking about.
All right. Yeah, actually, that was an experience. Like we had to use physics because, like, in this simulator uh, of tutorials, right? Some actions should happen as like in it was in a real world. So basically, a lot of those formulas I didn't have to like implement them, and yeah, I just copied from the old system. So
Okay,
yeah,
so
basically
you
that was
wrote
a
a
minimum.
tutorial simulator while at Carnegie Mellon. Is that right?
That's right.
Okay. So are you simulating tutorials or are you, um, are you writing tutorials or what exactly are you doing?
Okay. Actually, the context was because there was a class that demand a like different machines because they only had one for one class, right?
Okay.
And they wanted to like expand this for different machines.
Okay.
So basically, I was assigned to do to create this task, to create actually to yeah develop this task, and yeah I had to create a framework to load tutorials on demand for different machines of the lab. 3D machines was.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you had to create a bunch of tutorial and tests and expand and be able to scale it to a bunch of different machines. All right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll look for a bunch. Okay, and you said that you reused some code in order to help you um, achieve this. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
All right. Did you get any inputs from anyone else, or did you just mostly had to figure it out on your own?
Basically, I had in the beginning of this internship, I had contact with the specialist of virtual reality
Okay.
stuff that I got few insights of how I should drive my idea.
Okay.
And also, I have during the whole period of the internship, I had like kind of uh, one postdoc to discuss like my ideas, my engineering ideas before implementing them. So
Okay.
basically, every action, every major action that I would do, I first verify with this guy just to see if it makes sense. He was like available for that. He also suggests for those like big changes on the system,
Mm-hmm.
on like directions that I should go.
Mm-hmm.
I could contact him just to discuss like engineering
Sure.
portions because I was like by myself on this project basically.
Okay. So yeah, it seems like you did have like two people to like kind of talk with, but did
Yeah.
did they ever work on the system before, or were they just random people?
The postdoc, he actually supervised past students that worked on the system, but he never like worked implementing code on the
Okay.
system. And the other guy, he was not from the context of the system. He just worked in like past virtual reality projects.
I see.
That was basically this. Yeah.
Okay. So did you ever talk with them about the trade-offs or anything about the middleware that you're trying to use?
Uh, like, do you mean the middleware, like the framework?
Yeah, you mentioned that you are trying to reuse the middleware code, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So did you ever
Uh,
like talk with them about that, or what was the whole conversation behind that?
Yeah, I talked with the postdoc because I told him that a lot of the logic related to physics and like the behaviors of the machine was already implemented just for one machine, and I just could decouple this logic right to a system that is more dynamic. So I showed him like an example how this would work. I made
Okay.
a proof of concept to
Okay.
show him, and he seems to agree. And I invest in this idea. Basically, that was this. And yeah, I showed like the trade-offs because I'll have to like figure out the whole logic again, and it would take time. And he was more focused on the like architecture portion of like decouple from a hard-coded system to a client server one,
What was
kind of a distributed system. Yeah.
Okay, sure.
ahead.
But let's flip this scenario on its head. What is the counter argument in this specific situation to do it to reuse the code?
Um, from the postdoc, you mean from the
Yeah,
postdoc?
yeah.
Or
Let's
like
say
a general
let's.
counter
Was there
argument?
any disagreement to it? Like it didn't seem like because my original question
Mhm.
was having a disagreement, right? I want to see if there
Yeah.
was disagreement in this situation as well.
Actually, from his part, like from his opinion, there was no disagreement. But when I was like digging into the code base, it was kind of very messy. It's kind of deorganized code. So at first, I thought that it will take me much more time to understand and like to reuse the components. And I was basically at some point of this project, I was thinking to implement some portions of the system from scratch,
Okay.
right? Because there was this counter argument of a lot of time to understand like old code base, and that was basically this because the code base was pretty messy. There was no pattern or structure. Was like messy code.
Okay. I see. All right. Let's guess we'll move on to the next question.
Okay.
Let's see. Which one would be a good one? I can't ask you this one.
I think the
No, it's
yeah
fine.
the
I'll do
data
it. Let me do it.
the data one actually, but the data one is pretty boring. But
Okay,
anyways,
can you talk to me about a time when you decided to take initiative at work?
Yeah, for sure. Well, let me just think, because I have two stories here.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, this was in my first internship.
Okay.
Uh, at the first moment, they like the managers and the senior developers, they were giving to me tasks that I found out like I kind of get used to execute them with mastery, and it kind of turned boring to me. I knew like the importance of those tests, but I kind of found
I don't know
find
what your
myself
first.
in a plateau.
Again, treat me like I am an interview. I don't know what your first internship is. I don't know. I don't know
Okay.
context.
Okay, so starting again. Okay, so at my first internship at this company called B4A Group, like in my first month there, I was assigned few tasks that I just had like mastered them, So I find myself in a plateau.
Okay.
So there was no evolution anymore. So what I did is that I went into their like Trello dashboard, and saw a few tasks that I might be able to do. Before I take any action, I contacted the manager, right?
Okay.
I explained the situation because I wanted like new challenges and things to push the boundaries. He like present me a new task, and he just told me, okay, so you have to contact with the IT department from the other company to gather the requirements. So you have to integrate this new carrier company. I'd say that this was like my biggest initiative at work. So taking a very big, at the time was a big task for me, and that was one example. I was able to integrate this new carrier from the beginning to the end, but it took me like a lot of time because it was my first time doing this thing.
Okay,
But
what
with
do
a
you
lot
mean?
of
What do you mean by carrier? What's a carrier?
carrier, that's a very.
Oh, courier.
It's like courier. Yeah, that's
Okay.
yeah, courier.
Yeah.
The
Okay.
courier. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that was. Yeah, that was it actually.
Okay. But then, what does your company do? I was like, why do you need a courier?
Yeah. My company they sell. The company at the time they used to sell like beauty. Uh, how to say? Um, I don't know like the word for this. Products of beauty for women.
Okay.
So they sold this online. It was an e-commerce, right?
Okay.
So they need to track all of the orders from different suppliers that we used to have
Okay.
back then. And a few of them was not integrated into our system. So yeah, there was like this need to integrate a new courier, right? Is the right pronunciation?
Okay, I see. Okay, so you're basically talking about an e-commerce company. They need to integrate a new courier into their system.
Yep.
But then you decide, decided to take on more and harder tasks. So,
Yeah,
can you give an example of the easier task that you did and an example of the harder task that you took on later?
for sure, for sure. Well, actually, the easy task was basically to take, for example, yeah, to take needs from the customer service department, right? That was like some credit card information or some client's information that was wrong, and just correct them on the database.
Okay.
At first, was kind of more challenging for me because I never worked with SQL before, previously from this internship. But like as the time went, it was kind of easy because it was like the same table and the same information, and yeah, it was nothing different, you know.
Okay.
So after 2 weeks in this, after actually 2 to 3 weeks was kind of like the same every day, you know. So I decided to take this action of something that was more challenging.
Okay. And what's the challenging task? Give an example of the challenging task that you were taking on.
Oh yeah, the challenging task was that other one that I told you, like to integrate
integrate
the new
or-
Choreo.
Okay, so it seems like you just started off doing a bunch of SQL queries.
Yes.
Okay, and then after that you decide and integrating a query. Okay, tell me about that. Tell me about that project then.
Okay.
The query.
Okay. So the first part of this project was to understand where they were integrated into our system, and like how their documentation will fit into our system, like their APIs would fit into our system.
Okay.
So I basically had to gather those informations, those documentations, because they are very poor in terms of documentations. So those few emails. And after this, I understood like the JSON file that they will send to us. Yeah, understand our system better. So it was kind of 1 to 2 weeks just trying to understand and like doing few tests where I should do integrate the data.
Okay.
In the beginning was a very big challenge for me because I never worked in a code base that big. Yeah, and after I mapped where I should do add new pieces of code and like consume different APIs, I plugged this, like implementing few functions there to convert their data to our model of data, you know. And I had to also plug like the data flow with our tracking system to see where the order was. So basically that was the process. After I figured out like the points to implement and like reuse the logic, was kind of more easy. Yeah.
I see. Okay. Maps, and then you decided to take it. Okay, I see.
Yeah, and actually, after all this process, I opened the pull request, right?
Okay.
So my team analyzed my code
Okay.
from like from my mentor, and yeah, they suggest me few like better practice things, and then I pushed the code to production. That was basically this.
Okay.
My first code to production ever.
Okay, cool. Yeah, like a lot of times you're gonna need to like basically do that. But my question now is, well, during the planning stage, how much feedback did you get from your coworkers, and what were their comments and concerns?
Yeah, their comments and concerns was actually there was one specific that their requests send like data like in a format like different from our database.
Okay.
So their only concern was to me to figure out what the name of the fields like match from the names of the fields from the Choreo. So yeah, because they said that this needs to be mapped like exactly the same as the past queries.
Okay.
So that was a process that they was most concerned.
Okay.
And never like and actually do not touch in like old logics that would break like the past code. That was their main concern. Yeah.
Okay, got it. Yeah, that's definitely a pretty big issue with like managing regressions and stuff. Now did you already come up with a plan when they first came up with it? When it came with these concerns, or was this just part of the informal chatting phase?
Yeah, that was from the informal chatting phase.
Okay, I see. All right. And then let's go on to. I have one more question I want to ask you. Let's. Can you tell me a time when you had to transition between? Um, actually, no, not this one. Can you tell me a time when you weren't comfortable with the change? What did you do?
With the change, and I had to agree
Yeah,
with the
with
change.
a change. Yeah, what did you do?
Okay. Mm, yeah, there was a time um, when uh, let me just remember exactly. Mm. Yeah, actually, uh, this was, man, just one side note here. I don't remember one specific change that I was not agreeing from work.
Okay.
I remember from college. Is it okay?
Let me change the question then. Mm, can you tell me a time when you had to work under a lot of pressure? How did you handle the situation?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, like during one of the one of the at this Carnegie Mellon internship, I like on the middle of the internship, they needed like one specific thing that they had to present for the the patent agent, you know, the guys that handle the patents of the
Okay.
university.
So lawyers, right?
It, yeah, yeah. So they had to present kind of a MVP of something, like related to this thing that I was working.
Okay.
So they basically throw me a piece of code, right? Like was just to show on the browser, and they want me to like create a MVP for what I was doing,
Okay.
like with minor changes for different machines. Was That was the context.
Okay.
And I had like 1.5 week, right? So they they told me like stop all you're doing and focus on that.
Okay.
So again, like this framework, this kind of presenting MVP, they had like the old code base, and I had to work on this. What I did is like I first took the first day just to analyze the whole situation. If I would invest to create a new from scratch, or I can make made fine minor changes.
Mm-hmm.
And what I decided to do is basically work on the existing code, reuse it, uh, and was pretty a lot of pressure because like they had the date of this meeting and could not change, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I had to present like this MVP working.
Okay.
So I managed to finish actually 3 days before the deadline.
Okay. So yeah, trying to come up with an MVP in 10 days is not easy.
Uh-huh.
But and you say you finished in 3 days, right? What were the tricks and I guess methodology you used to accept to really get it done faster than you usually would? Were there any trade
Uh,
offs or considerations that you took on?
yes, I kind of drew a plan, you know, just to break my tasks into minor steps,
Okay.
so I can visualize better, you know, and kind of estimate time. Uh, and the other thing I thought about was to maybe external solutions, you know, few uh, for new things that we had to add into this MVP. So because if I had time, I would implement those things. But since we had like little time, I had to like uh, uh, find those external solutions.
What do you mean
So basically,
What do you mean external
I
solutions?
because like um, in the beginning, like they were creating this entire MVP, right, for the browser.
Yeah.
Rendering 3D assets on the browser, which is
Okay.
not so efficient. So
Okay.
it takes a lot of time.
Okay.
What I was thinking to do is kind of use some HTML animation uh, to represent the 3D assets, you know. So I was kind of investing time into try to find an external solution for this.
Okay.
Because if I would code this in like those animations, it would take a lot of time.
Okay.
So yeah, I invest time just understanding the entire picture, the whole picture, before invest my time and like blindly code the solution, you know.
Mm.
So I planned first.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me challenge you on that because what you're saying sounds like in any other situation you would have blindly coded and not tried to plan out your steps.
Mm. Okay, I got you.
Yeah.
Uh, no, actually, that's a challenge. Actually, I tried to plan beforehand, but like I'd say that mm, it's something that sometimes we don't know like our needs
Okay.
while creating our solution, you know. And for this one, I had to at almost 100% sure like that the plan would work, you know, before commit to this plan.
Okay.
So was a very big learn, like
Mm-hmm.
to make a plan and execute, you know. So it's kind of yeah more strict plan to follow while compared to like my past planning
Okay.
and engineering discussions. Yeah.
Okay. More strict. In the interest of time, I'm gonna stop here because we're at 30 minutes. But
30
I'm kind
minutes.
of I do have my notes here, but I want to ask you, how do you think you did?
I think that since I have the stories, like already wrote, was kind of more easier to create my line of thought, you know.
Okay.
And also, yeah. But like for some extra things you asked for some follow up questions,
Uh-huh.
was kind of hard because I didn't cover in my stories. You know, I had to like put some information from my head,
Uh-huh.
so I was kind of improvising at some points.
Okay.
But I'd say that like 60 to 70% was based on the stories I wrote.
Okay. I mean, it's still pretty good, you know, like, because other times you're going to have some times then you don't have that. But I'm going to say that the biggest issue I saw was the fact that every single time you said or did something, it's like I had to keep digging for the context for it. That's the problem. Like let's say let's go back to the beginning. So when I asked you, did you have conflict with your teammates? You just said, oh, there's a time when we didn't agree about the logic of the code. Okay. Is there anything else that makes this interesting? So it's like you remember like in the basically the first 10 minutes I had to like basically fish for that information. Why is it interesting? Why is it worth talking about?
Yeah, was incomplete.
Yeah, it was incredibly incomplete. It's like I get that you're trying to just give them the basic information without rambling, but I think you've gone too far in that direction. The reason why is because, like, you know, if I ask for, like, let's say for instance I'm asking what's on the menu tonight, right? And you basically told me it's just chicken. It's like, what do you mean just chicken? Is it like is it a coq au vin? Is it like chicken nuggets? Like, it's just chicken. That's basically the exact equivalent of what you gave me. Because it just tells me the basic idea, but you haven't given me anything interesting about it. You haven't told me like why it's important, why I should care, what we're like, what's like anything noteworthy about it. Because you know there's a lot of people who disagree about code, you know, and this happens a lot of times. Like, what makes this time special? Does that make sense?
I see, and I didn't like kind of move forward with my answer, right?
No,
I
you didn't
perceive
give me
this.
anything to go off of. Does that make sense?
I see. Yeah.
Like I said, you just said I disagree with the code. A lot of people disagree with code. Again, like why does this make? Why should I care about this situation? Same thing happened for the what's it called? The I want to say the e-commerce company. It's like you're talking about integrating a courier company. Where was this? Why is this important? Why are you doing this? You know. But if you said I was working at an e-commerce company that does X Y Z, you know, that delivers beauty products. Okay, that's fine. And then that makes sense. Now you integrate with couriers. You didn't give me that context beforehand. Why? It's like when you just say the task, without the context, it's just like I have no idea why this is important. And you kind of did it again at the last one with the MVP. Although the answer about the pressure was a little bit better. It's like you could have said I had to. I think the presenting to lawyers was a good context actually. But I definitely would have liked a little bit more. It would have been like, okay, you promised something to lawyers, but then you also need to say what you promised. It's like what makes you need to really ask yourself what's really going to make it interesting, not just from a storytelling perspective, but from an engineering perspective. Does that make sense?
Okay, yeah. The information. Yeah, I see.
It's not the information. It's more like qualifying it. Like why do I care? Why should I be interested in the story? Yeah, like you need to sell me on that. It's like what about this makes this worth talking about?
Okay, one question here.
Yeah.
For the last example, if I said something like that was pretty important because we had to show the MVP,
Okay, that's fine.
which presents our machines in a different scenario, like different machines of our lab compared to the past machines.
Okay.
That would be more context. Is that correct?
That would be, yeah. I think that also is, I think I would phrase it a little bit better. So you would say like you want to demonstrate the improvements of of your new machines. My next question would then, why do you need lawyers?
Because they were evaluating like if it was viable
What do you
to
mean
create
by?
a patent for this.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Then,
Yeah.
that would be important. So the way I would present this is we wanted to upgrade our machines. We wanted to demonstrate our algorithm or whatever core technology, and we were interested in patenting it. And so we needed to come up with a minimum viable product demonstration for the lawyers. That would have explained
That's
exactly the
much
same
clearer.
thing. It's like why? Yeah, because the difference is that every single time I'm gonna repeat myself, but every single time you came with some context, you didn't. Every time you said something, you didn't really have the context for me to make it interesting. I had to dig for it. That's the problem.
I see.
That's the biggest problem. And then there's also other things I would say as well. The disagreement with a teammate. You basically said it's faster, easier to reuse code, but I felt like and I said, are there other reasons when you might want to reuse code? This is more of me testing whether or not you are capable of evaluating multiple dimensions. And yeah, it's very obvious it's faster and easier to reuse code. That's very obvious. I was trying to get at is there anything else?
I answered you like
No.
basically
I saw the
the
tutorial
counter
simulator.
argument.
The tutorial simulator was kind of like more or less the same thing, where it's like, oh, I had to dig for that, and then you said ask for help with PhD guide, and you said it was faster, and it was just easier.
Easier.
Yeah,
You wanna
I'm
hear
quoting you.
this.
It's easier, and then you just showed them. So
What should I say then?
Well, it's like, well, I guess this kind of boils down to your engineering competencies. But this is
I
like,
see.
it's like, if that really is all you know, if that really is your real answer, then okay, then that's fine, I guess. But it's more like, I guess I was expecting for you to really come up with like another answer, like it's safer because chances are the code that exists in the code base is already approved and already has been, and chances are most likely has been thought out. So reusing it incurs less risk.
Less risk. Okay.
Yeah, it's like, because if you come with some new code, then it just straight up means that you have to reevaluate all your base conditions altogether. Whereas if you reuse the existing code, then chances are you just build off the existing cases.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah.
Like easier is too vague. Your answer is much more complete and
Exactly.
like convinced, much more much more compelling. Yeah.
Exactly. So I give you a very specific example of that,
For sure.
and this is just off the top of my head. And so that's the difference between what you're doing and what I'm doing, because you're just saying it's easier. It's easier. Like, what do you mean it's easier? Is it easier to faster to write? Is it easier to understand? It's like you could say an answer, but I need to know. You need to understand when you're being too vague and when you're not. And almost always giving a very specific example to a very specific answer is almost always going to help you, because then you say, hey, what do you mean by this? Oh, let's say for instance I have XYZ. You know, that will help. And so I kind of want you to like really think in terms of that. One example for one specific point. It's kind of hard.
You don't like context, right?
Yeah,
The
exactly.
context.
It's the context that really matters. But it's not. But what you had going on earlier was the fact that you kind of thought that, oh well, I'm going to ramble about my context and what was going on. It's like, again, it's about compressing the context to just interesting enough that I want to ask more about it, but also that it covers just enough that I want more. You know, it's like
I
it can't
see.
it can't
I
be
see.
too specific either. But it's finding that balance.
I see. I went too far now, but yeah, let me go back.
Yeah, but
Okay.
at least you're at this point. You understand the basic idea. All you have left is to really ask yourself what kind of examples and information I need to add on to make it like interesting and make it for the interviewer. But again, don't
I see.
add too much. It's like adding spices to your food. Don't drown
That
it
is
in like
nice.
fucking teriyaki sauce and cumin and
Mhm.
whatever.
Okay.
Like just
I see.
add it just right. And I definitely recommend you test this on I guess other people who are not engineers, like random strangers even,
All right.
like your family members or something. If you can check with them.
I I tested with my uncle last time, and
Yeah.
he was kind of confused sometimes because he never worked with code. And
It's not
explain me
about
more
code.
about this.
Even
I don't
someone,
understand what you're talking about.
yeah, it's like even someone with code, um, it could even someone without code. You could argue that didn't actually understood what I was talking about, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, like for example with the lawyers, why was a lawyer needed? Oh yeah, because we have a new piece of technology that can potentially improve the performance of our systems, and we want to patent it. Very easy to understand that. Like even if you're
I
not
see.
code, so like at least that's the way I do things. Is that because I'm never quite sure who I'm going to be talking to. I always try to make my explanations as simple as possible, so that way, like even if it's like business development I'm talking to, or a hiring manager or something like who I may not who has some understanding of code, but maybe never has the engineering background, it's going to be
Mhm.
very easy for them to understand. And I really want you to try and come up with very simple contexts and explanations that capture that. I think that's going to be the best way for you to going forward. So
I see.
I want to really rework some of your explanations. I can tell that you're trying to like really stick to what you wrote down, but I want you to be a little bit more flexible with this. I want you to really think about, okay, how can I present this in a way that covers what the person is asking. Let me see. All right, let me see
I
what
see.
else I can give you. Yeah, okay, the framework thing. Yeah, like what did you do at Carnegie Mellon? I had to ask you for that. You need to explain this one. But I've already talked about it. No disagreement. Too much time to understand old code. Um. Okay. The next when you said that it would take too much time to understand the old code, my next question would have been, what was the time constraint? Why were you under pressure? And
Uh, yeah, because of the meeting, I told you
no, no,
on
no,
the
no,
answer.
no. This one's for the PhD and AR guy at Carnegie Mellon.
Okay. Oh, that was it. Like you asked me
Yes.
why the time constraint, and I answered you.
No, I asked you. This one wasn't the time constraint. This one was the conflict with teammates.
No, I'm pretty sure. Man, I'm pretty sure you asked me. Tell me a situation when you had to work with time pressure.
Yeah, I did.
And
That's the last one. I'm talking about the one. I'm talking about the first question, or really the second one. When you talked about the tutorial simulator.
Okay, and what was the question?
I asked you if conflict with teammates, and then I asked you like, can you think of another time when you would want to reuse code?
Oh, I see. Yeah, yeah.
And then you
for
said,
sure.
and then later on in the conversation, you said that you had help from some PhD and AR guy for the ideas who never really touched the code. They only mentored other people, and it was easier for you to show them the code, and they didn't really have too much disagreements. But you also mentioned that it took too much time to understand the old code as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I remember.
So I'm asking you, what was the thing that was preventing you from spending the time to understand the old code?
No, actually, I analyzed the code, right?
Okay.
And it was taking me too much time because it was too messy, the code. So that was the argument I was trying to make.
Okay.
Like, because for some portions of the system, was much more clear to understand and to reuse it.
Mm-hmm.
And for other portions was like, it's too messy. Yeah, that was my argument. The argument I was trying to do.
Okay, so you said it was too messy to write new stuff. I think that you also may want to qualify it a little bit, saying that not just did it take too much time, but it was also very difficult to refactor without breaking stuff, or at least say that, because
Good.
the difference between that and just saying, oh, let's write new code, is that the answer you gave made it seem like you're kind of lazy. I'm not gonna lie.
No, yeah,
The reason
you're
why is
right.
because you said, oh, it's too difficult, therefore I'm gonna just rewrite. I'm gonna write new code.
Actually, to explain you why that was difficult.
Yes,
Right.
exactly. So it kind of boils down to the context, like why did you make this specific decision? It's like, oh, is this too? It just takes too long. You know how bad that sounds. But if you
For
can give,
sure, yeah.
yeah, it just like takes too long to understand it. But if you instead say something like, oh yeah, well it's it was too difficult to understand, and we risked doing a very high amount of regressions, and this is a very important task. If you could qualify your endeavor
Yeah.
with like something like some very good, easy to understand reasons, that
Uh-huh.
makes your answer sound a whole lot better.
Much better.
Yeah.
Yeah, much better.
So really, yeah,
Right.
I recommend you rewatch this stream once we're done, and really watch it from your and listen to your own answers, and then you'll probably exactly understand what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's see, initiative, e-commerce, career, yeah, SQL tasks. Okay, so the first question, and I think the follow up would be like you said you had to do a bunch of SQL tasks. Again, same thing. Like why did you do these SQL tasks? What were they important for? If were they for like business development or whatever, then that's different. You know.
Yeah, sometimes I get concerned of, as you mentioned, rumbling, right?
Uh huh.
Like a lot
Yes.
while explaining all the context. Well, the context of the SQL was A, B, and C, but the
Uh-huh.
context of like the new test I wanted was like A, B, and C, and yeah, like to put all those context. Sometimes I think that it
Okay.
would make my answer too big.
You only need like a answer. What you only need like one piece of context that makes it important, and then the reasoning to make it seem like you're not like lazy and shit. You know. Or like, or at least you thought about it. Like one or two insights that is like, oh yeah, this is like really important that we think about this. Or these are the trade offs. Like so, for instance, going back to the whole example of why would you want to what's called reuse new code, reuse code versus come with new code. You saw how I only gave like a very short like 10-second follow up to that to qualify it, right? It doesn't take very much. It just needs you just need to have some kind of reasoning to show that you were actually thinking about your decisions.
And not vague adjectives like hard, easy. Yeah, I got your idea.
Yeah, show me that you are like like at least thinking about what you're doing. That's kind of what we
I see.
want to get to. And so it's just like pick one or like just come with a small reason. Anyway, rendering asset. We already talked about this. Break tests. Yeah. I didn't really like your answer to the last one where break tests into minor steps and external solutions. It kind of implies that you usually don't do it. I think you should come with a better answer. That's all I can say about that. I think this was the one that you said you came up with off the top of your head.
Oh yeah, that one from the top of my head.
Yeah. So usually in those situations, I always come back to like I always have a checklist in my head of like two or three things I really want to drive home to the interviewer, and then some fallbacks, and I usually just pick based on that. I pick my stories based on that North Compass rather than trying to come up with a story off the cuff of my wrist. Because let me give you an example off the top of my head of how I would answer this pressure situation. I would say that the time when I came under pressure was when I had to work on two projects at once when I never worked on the code base. And so the way I did it was simply by I used every single stack in the book, but what really helped me was to actually write, um, take a little bit more time with the first project and write it in a way where I could reuse the code for a big majority of the code for the second project. The benefit of this was twofold. The first one was that the first project, would have been written in a way that's a little bit more flexible to allow for future changes, and I could reuse that template for and make the second project go a little bit easier.
I see.
So you see like how that was very easy for me to come up with, and that's off the top of my head. I didn't even try to come up with an answer to this, but you didn't really have to know too much about the project. You said, oh, two projects, but they were written the same way. Then I could probably start talking about the projects themselves and qualifying a little bit, but you at least understand the moral of the story right there.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's like you understand like what the exact trick did, and these were like two different modules for the Android app or whatever, right? And then I
You-
can
You're always you're always given a very clear context and like and like qualifying pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Admittedly, I probably could have come
Complete.
up with a better answer off the top of my head for that one. I kind of did the same thing you did, where I didn't really explain, I didn't give you more the context of interest. But again, like I was kind of coming up with it, but at least you have something to grasp onto. Like, oh yeah, like I explained like what I did and why I did it. I could definitely go into more context with that, but at least you understand like the decision.
Hmm. Yeah.
So
I see.
Yeah.
What's important? Yeah.
yeah, so that's kind of like again giving the interviewer something to grasp onto. Let's see. Yeah, I think that's the feedback I have for you. I really recommend you rewatch this stream in order to really understand like what it looks like from my perspective, and so it really drives the point home. So,
I rewatch basically almost every stream.
okay, nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
One question, very fast here.
Uh-huh.
Like there's this well-known called STAR method, right?
Yes.
You mentioned like in past streams that you don't like this. You use like a much more simple one that is like context and something else, right?
Yeah. Context and then result, action, situation, result. It's basically STAR method, but I only just the way I think about it is like everyone says situation, task, action, result, right? I say
Yes.
just give me one action, what makes it spicy, and the result. That's the easier way I think about it. It's an offshoot of it. I'm not totally trashing Star, but the thing is that Star just makes it sound very robotic, and I thinking of things a little bit more human, and a little bit more in terms of what makes people really pay attention. So
I see.
that's why I represent like this. It's because if you think of Star, it's like, oh, I have to do just check off these 4 boxes and I'm great, right? But the way I think about it is that you have a human being on the other side of the table who has a very short attention span and has other shit to do. How do I keep his interest? Yeah, keep me interested, keep me invested in this story. You know what I mean? That's basically the way I think about it. And so it only doesn't take very much to do that either. So I really encourage you to like think simply and think about like how do I make this person on the other side of the table care?
I see.
Yeah.
I'll do it, and also I will test with different people here.
Yeah.
Just to see their feedback. Yeah.
If they start going like, wait, what the fuck are you talking about? Then you fucked up. Okay.
Yeah, that's a pretty good sign. Yeah.
Anyway, so for the next coming week, just try that a little bit, but don't make that your main focus. You have like basically 11 days, and we took a break for lead coding. So I want to get back on the horse for lead coding. Looking at your sheet, let me grab your sheet.
Actually, was doing tagged questions for Microsoft,
Okay.
but before this was dynamic programming. Yeah.
Okay, so I want you to go back to dynamic programming, and I also want you to start redoing some problems from EPI. Does that make sense?
Is there any specific chapter or no?
I want you to there's a little thing at the front of the book that says, "Oh yeah, your interview is in 12 days or something," right?
Oh, I know that.
Do the problems that they tag there.
In the box of 7 days, 1 month. Okay.
Yeah, I would say
Okay.
do the one for 1 month. Actually, I think you're good enough where you can actually do that. And you don't have to spend too much time reflecting. I think you're at a pretty good point right now. I think it's about really just thinking about your mistakes. So I think you could be a little bit fast and loose with the reflection, but I think you should still keep that in the back of your mind.
Okay. But one thing, in last Tuesday, you said like for me to analyze the way I went with my idea, right?
Yeah.
Like a argument and a counter argument, right? For any specific decision I took, something
Sure.
like this, right?
Yeah. The reason,
Okay.
it's like I would say that is a how to describe it. It's a little bit more. It's a tool to help you really think through your stories and the things you want to say. In this case, the way I do it is like I give a reason why. Like for instance, let's say I go back to the 2 projects one. I deliver 2 projects instead of 1 project for the same deadline. And so now I said, okay, well, the reason why I did what I did was, I thought, okay, what's the most efficient way for me to do this? I created some structure that could be used more, flexibly between two different projects.
I see.
And so that's the argument for the efficiency. Now, the current argument is that they would share dependencies, and it's just the same structure. But then now I had to think about. Then I had to really think about. Okay, well, is this really a problem? And I'd probably say no because they were for two different platforms. One was for our, for app A, and then the project was for app B. But the app A and B architectures were similar. So you see, like how I can have that back and forth conversation with someone about it.
Yeah.
And you should be able to anticipate that as well.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. But just for real, this is the last thing. There's a chapter of hash tables, right? And
Yes.
I guess let me just see one thing here. Hash tables, dynamic programming, and there's another exercise called Honor classes. Honor classes. Class, right?
Yeah, honor class. I would say don't bother with the honor class right now, unless you feel really good. But I imagine with like redoing the problems, I think you'll definitely have your work cut out for you. But I'd be very surprised if you made it through all of it and got above a 80 to 90%, like above an 80% hit rate for those, like on the first try.
Okay.
I'd be very
good.
surprised.
So
that's our goal, 80%.
Good.
All right.
80%. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a nice one.
All right.
I think that's it.
I'll let you go. Hopefully this was hopefully you got some value out of this resume review. We got 11 days before like your Amazon stuff. Yeah. Let me know how things go with Microsoft and when they get back.
Oh, actually, let me just give you one more context here. From the Amazon stuff, I contacted the recruiter, right? And he said that based on my past applications from last year, I was kind of blocked in their system until this April 20th, right? So he said to me that I am a priority, kind of. And I can email him on the 20th, and he will like fit me into an interview. So was not that I will have the interview on the 20th.
Okay.
You know? So yeah, that was basically this.
Okay, you were blocked from applying until the 20th.
Yeah, that was basically this.
Got it. Okay, so we have a little bit more time. So, yeah, I would say redo the 1 month for API. Take a little bit more time with it. Then, and definitely, I really, at this point, we're all about like fixing and avoiding mistakes.
Okay. Good.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, man.
I'll let you go,
So
man.
that's it.
All right,
Okay,
good luck
man.
studying.
Thanks. Take care.
All right.
Bye.
Bye. All right. Yes, that's the stream. Less people than usual, but it's all good. I guess if no one else has any other questions, then I will see you guys later. We will stream on Tuesday, 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Thank you all for joining me. Hope you all learned something. Follow me on my socials. The links are in the description down below. And yeah, have a good afternoon. I'll see you next time.